Hey guys, it's Landon Blake with Redefined Horizons. In this video, I want to show you how I set up my folder template to manage UAV data on a project. So at my company, we have a separate network drive where we keep all of our UAV data. So this isn't the folder structure that I use to manage a project, any type of project. This is just specific to managing the UAV data on a project. Okay, so for every project that has a UAV component, we'll have this folder in the network drive that we use for our UAV data. So here's the template. So normally this would have the name of your project here. So for example, might be the project number. So then you would go in. So essentially in this folder, what you would have is you would have a set of folders with your project numbers, unique project numbers, and you would go in, and this structure is the common structure to all of these folders. Okay. So this is the template. So I'm just going to go back and rename this real quick. Okay, so in the first level of the template, the project template, we have 6 folders. Okay, and this is where we're going to start because this is the important part here. Okay, the first folder here is for mission planning. The second folder is for raw images. The third is for survey points. The fourth is for software projects. The fifth is for work products. And the sixth is for quality control, quality assurance. And the way I've set this template up is these folders are basically arranged in chronological order. So as you work your way through the project, you'll be moving down this list of folders. You don't have to organize your data that way. So for example, you could organize it topically instead of chronologically, but this is basically a chronological organization of the folder. And the reason I decided to structure it this way is because this works really well with the workflow that I'm going to show you in a different video. So as you work your way through that workflow or that pipeline, you're also moving your way down this folder structure. Okay? And that doesn't mean that when you're down here on work products that you never go back into these other folders, but these folders follow the order of the folders follows the basic flow of the project. Okay, so at the start of the project, you've got your mission planning, right? And then when you finish up, you're doing your QA/QC on your work products. Okay. And then everything else is in between. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm just going to show you what's inside each of these 6 folders. Okay. So in the mission planning folder, what's going to go in here is your exhibit for your flight plan. Okay. So hopefully you're doing that on any, you don't have to do that on all projects if you've got a really simple flight, but if you have anything with obstructions or major changes in elevations or restricted airspace, you probably want a flight plan. And I like to do those on an 11:17 exhibit with a background ortho. So that's going to go in your mission planning folder. If you, I shouldn't say if, when you pull your aeronautical chart or a screenshot off of a tool like AirMap, drop that in here. That should also be in here. And then if you've checked for any alerts to airmen or other things like that before the flight, all of that information goes in this folder. Okay, and if you wanted to, I haven't done it, but you could go in and break this down with another level of folders. So we could call this flight plan exhibit, and then we could say charts, and make one more for notices. Okay. So this is to plan your flight. Then you're going to execute your flight, okay, in the field. We don't have a folder for that step. After you've executed your flight, you're going to come back. You're going to download raw images off your camera on the UAV, right? So that's going to go in this second folder, your raw images. Now, you can just dump all your images in here in a bucket if you'd like. What I like to do is I like to separate my images into verticals and obliques, okay? And the reason I do that is these oblique photos are often helpful for drafters or civil engineers or inspectors or other people that maybe haven't physically been on the site. And so I'll put those in the oblique folder. And then the vertical photos, I put those in here because there are certain situations where you can use vertical photos with some traditional photogrammetry formulas and measurements to calculate some values, something you can't do with obliques. So that's why I keep those two separate. And then when you jump in one level, I also split those photos up into low altitude and high altitude, and I do that for both the vertical and obliques. Okay, and the reason I do that is on our typical project where we're flying a UAV, we're going to make two passes. We're going to make a low altitude pass and a high altitude pass. So for example, low altitude might be at 50 or 100 feet. High altitude might be at the higher end of the UAV limit at 300 or 350 feet. Okay, altitude. So your raw images go in here. Okay, now, because I'm a land surveyor, we don't do UAV mapping or photogrammetry without some good survey data. Okay, so the survey points folder here, these are points that are coming from a field survey into essentially the photogrammetry project. Okay, and so I've got three types of points. There's the control points for the aerial targets. We always collect ground truth points. Okay, and I know you do that too because you're a good land surveyor. You collect ground truth points. Those go in here. And then the last one is for photo ID points if we have to photo ID something because we didn't set enough targets or we're missing a target. Those go in the third folder. Okay, and these are just typically CSVs, comma separated values, or text delimited files that go in these three folders. Okay, and you could delete these folders and just use a standard naming convention and just dump your CSVs right in this survey points folder as well. That's another way to do that. Okay. So after you've got your images and your survey points, so essentially these two folders here, that's your input data for the photogrammetry project, right? So the next step is to actually run the photogrammetric processing. So we have the software projects folder, okay? So I've got one for Pix4D. So your actual Pix4D project, the folder structure it creates goes in this folder. We use Virtual Surveyor for our aerial mapping. It's a little more elegant than Pix4D for kind of the traditional aerial mapping workflow as it's applied to UAV data. And so the Virtual Surveyor project would go in here. And I got to give a shout out to Daniel Katz at Aerotos. It's a consulting firm in the California Bay Area. He's the one that showed me Virtual Surveyor, and it's a really good product. So tip of my hat to Daniel for that. And then if we're doing a project where we're not doing traditional surveying deliverables, but more of a GIS type of deliverable, so an asset inventory project or just a GIS grade mapping project or an inspection project, we'll put our QGIS GIS project in here in this folder. Okay, so that's where the software projects goes. So you're doing your work in those software projects. Now this folder is for the actual work products, and what I like to do with this folder is this is for final work products. So initial work products, kind of works in progress, those are going to go in your software projects folders. We don't move stuff into the work products folder until it's ready to deliver. So this is for final data. Okay, and the reason I like to do that is if you're not in charge of the UAV work on a project, you shouldn't be in any of these other folders. This folder number 5 is the only folder you should ever be in. So you might come in here to grab some data. So the first item here in our work product is cataloged images. Those are images, the raw images that have some metadata added to them, and they've been cataloged in some way. Ortho photos is for the ortho photography that comes out of a product like Pix4D. So this is going to be a geotiff. The DIM is for the elevation model that comes out of a product like Pix4D. The CAD folder is for when we're doing mapping. And so this is where our CAD drawings will go. And I like to separate those out to planimetric drawings. So this is 2D line work labeling and hatching. And the 3D drawing is for 3D points and break lines. This folder number 5 is actual points that come out of a product like Virtual Surveyor. Okay. So this is just delimited text files again here. And then 6 would be whatever GIS deliverables we had. So this could be maps in a PDF format, or it could be vector data in a shapefile or GeoJSON or delimited text formats, something like that. Okay, that's going to go in number 6. Okay, so then we go back 2 steps here to our, this is our main folder. The last top level folder is quality, the 6th folder here. And this is for the QA/QC that gets done. So I have a folder for checklists. So these are PDF fillable checklists. There's one for the mission planning, one for the mapping, one for the ortho and dim production. So these are checklists that your tech is completing as he does this work, QA/QC checklists. And then there's a post-flight checklist and pre-flight that should be done in the field before and after the flight. And so I'm actually gonna make a change to these. I'm gonna number these. I forgot to do that. So we'll number these in the order they're used. So we do the mission planning checklist first, then we do the pre-flight, then we're gonna do the ortho and dim production, then we'll do the mapping, and then I skipped one, didn't I? So this will come after the pre-flight. Okay. And again, you don't need these subfolders. If you follow a good naming convention on your fillable PDFs, you might be able to just get rid of this whole structure and just nest your forms right under the checklist folder. Okay. The next folder in the quality folder is ground truth. Okay, and this is for the drawing that you're going to pull your ground truth points into, where you're going to do some of your analysis on your work products versus the ground truth, the points from the survey. Okay, so this doesn't hold the ground truth points. Those are up here in the points folder, survey points folder. But this has your ground truth drawing and your spreadsheet for any analysis you've done as part of your ground truthing. And then finally, we have the reports. Quality of the dim, the mapping quality, and the ortho quality, and those could be reports that come directly out of your software like Pix4D, or they could be a simple report that you've put together using your analysis out of the ground truth drawing. And I'll try and do some more videos in the future that show how that would work, how you would go in and use ground truth points to determine the quality of your UAV mapping products. Okay. So that's a good summary of this structure. Like I said, it's in chronological order, 6 top-level folders. You just work your way through these folders as you progress through the project. And there's all kinds of different ways to do this, but now you can see how I've decided to set up my UAV projects here for my work as a land surveyor.